Good evening, everyone. And thank you so much for being with me here today, whether in person or virtual. I'm Haneefah Khaaliq, and I'm broadcasting live right here from the Blue Chip Casino, one of the ballrooms here in Michigan City. I'm also live streaming right now on Facebook, Twitter, Periscope, YouTube, and of course, Instagram. For those physically present, don't worry, the camera's only on me. I'm running for United States Senate here in the state of Indiana in 2022, and I'm starting my campaign right now because it's finally my election season. This is my 12th town hall this year, and I'm hoping it will be heard throughout the entire state for days to come. Maybe you can help me by sharing right now. Everyone in attendance is wearing a mask and practicing social distancing. Thank you so much. The first part of this town hall will be in English. If you are Spanish speaking, stay tuned for the second part, which will be translated entirely into Spanish. So first, I'd like to share my agenda for tonight. I'll always start my town halls off with a brief intro, go into my bio, move on to some national issues, and of course conclude with some news you can use. But before I get into my intro this evening, I first want to start out by having a brief moment of silence for the COVID-19 victims. If you could please bow your head with me. Thank you. I now want to remind everyone watching that yesterday was Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Now, most of us are familiar with Dr. King. He's most known for his peaceful demonstrations, campaigns to end racial segregation, and for the promotion of equality throughout this nation. But I'm going to tell you one short, quick fact about Dr. King you may not have known. During the time of his activism, he went to jail nearly 30 times for civil disobedience and other trumped-up charges. Now, you can try to use all your hands and toes to count that number, and I'm afraid you'd still come up short. I don't know about you, but I don't know very many people in this world who would be willing to sacrifice themselves for the good of humanity like that. I think Dr. King was indeed someone special, and I'm so happy to give him honor more than 50 years after his unfortunate death. I hope I'll be given many more opportunities to honor such an extraordinary individual. For those of you tuning in, I'm Haneefah Khaaliq, running for United States Senate in Indiana in 22, and this is my online fundraising event, virtual town hall. I'm asking each person watching to donate $100 or more in the next hour. To give, please visit my ActBlue account or HaneefahKhaaliq.org. I'm currently the only candidate in the nation who promises to fight for livable wages, an expansion of the civil rights law, and a quality education for all. So as promised, I'm going to start with a brief bio, go into some national issues, and conclude with some news you can use. So here we go. I was born and raised in Chicago, Illinois, in the Hyde Park area. After my mom divorced, we spent a little time on the south side of Chicago before my mother remarried my stepfather, whose family was Polish-American. From the age of 3, I grew up in an interracial home, and in a home that taught me people of different races can not only get along together, but they can do so in holy matrimony. When the steel mill shut down in Illinois, my family packed up and eventually we moved to Northwest Indiana. I've been a proud Hoosier ever since 2000. I graduated from Lake Central High School in St. John, Indiana, and went on to graduate from both IUPUI in Indy and Valparaiso University School of Law. While at IUPUI, I became the president of a campus Christian student organization and a youth minister for my church. So while I generally have deeply held Christian values, I can assure you I have respect for all religions, and even those who may choose to have none at all. After graduating from IUPUI, I became an award-winning public school teacher for Indianapolis Public Schools. Now I'm an education professor, lawyer, business owner, civil rights agency director, and of course, I'm running to be your next United States Senator. So why should you elect me to be your next United States Senator? It's a very simple answer. I'm running to be your next senator because I know I can do the job better than the two who occupy the position right now. I know I can listen better, I can represent you better, and I can help you more. And I'm going to do all that by first promising to hold regular public town halls, either in person or virtually. When has either one of our Indiana United States senators held a public town hall? This is my 12th town hall this year, and I'm just an average American. They won't have one, you know why? Because they shy away from public discourse. They're scared of facing your disagreements. I am not. In fact, I look forward to engaging in dialogue with Hoosiers, especially in times of disagreement. Why? Because it is only through this process that real change can be brought about. A newspaper, I won't say which one because I think it's embarrassing for them, had the nerve to publish an op-ed last year praising one of our United States senators. I couldn't believe it. My scalp nearly set on fire. Praise for what? For sitting idly by as not a single Hoosier brought home any more take-home pay? For not ensuring every single member of society, no matter what their lifestyle may be, can live and work where they please? For not advocating for parents still struggling in a pandemic to provide their kids with the best education? Last year, we had a United States senator who dared to take money away from schools simply if they opted for remote learning in a pandemic because they were trying to be careful. Give me a break. You know what else? These two senators came out and met with who exactly they wanted to meet with now, because remember, only invited guests to their meetings. Only VIP to their meetings. They came out, heard their concerns, and still went back to Capitol Hill and marched to the sound of their own drum. Enough is enough. For those of you tuning in, I'm Haneefah Khaaliq, running for United States Senate here in Indiana. Now, I appreciate all the likes, shares, comments, retweets, and all those wonderful things. But I need your financial support if I'm to stay in this race as a real contender. I'm asking each person watching right now to donate $100 in the next hour. To give, please visit my ActBlue account or visit HaneefahKhaaliq.org. Hoosiers, it's time we all wake up to the tricks and games politicians play when they need our votes. How they come around and smile and wave and pretend to be something they are not. Just prepare for all the ads and commercials of nonsense my opponent will play because they know they can outspend me, and they're hoping you'll forget about their lack of performance over the years. Well, you know what? I'm not tricking anybody, and I'm not here to play games with anyone either. But what I am going to do is ask Hoosiers to wake up from this hypnotic state of choosing passive leadership over those they know will roll up their sleeves and actually get to work. I want to remind you, Senator Todd Young had no problems last year taking recess in a pandemic. While you struggled to pay your bills, he, along with the rest of his colleagues, went home. He had no objection, gave no protest, not even the slightest disagreement did he show, even though he hadn't done a thing for you all year long. You know, when I was a school teacher, I didn't reward students with free time until I saw their finished work. Some of the teachers, you know, they didn't agree with me because I ran such a tight ship. But you know what? At the end of the day, my students outperformed, and I was proud of them. Senator Young, this message is directly to you. We're done watching you and your colleagues take breaks without earning them. We're done watching you be paid for doing nothing. And we don't care much about what you're doing now, because for over 20 years, you've done nothing for the environment, you've done nothing for health care, you've done nothing for equal pay for equal work. By God, you're against even raising the federal minimum wage, which everyone has been begging for. As a United States Senator, I promise to tackle things that have gone ignored for too long, like gun violence. Thousands of mass shootings later, 3,000 plus children lost. The U.S. is a day late and a dollar short in resolving this crisis. Unlike Senator Young, I promise to never vote to confirm reprehensible humans like Jeff Sessions, who throughout his entire law career waged an attack on civil rights. When it comes to our immigration system, I promise to do everything in my power to prevent it from becoming or turning into one based entirely on merit, and uphold the inscription written on our Statue of Liberty. Bring me your tired, your broken, those yearning to be free, because let's just face it, no one's ancestors arrived here based entirely on merit. While I know mine certainly didn't. I promise to fight hard for our LGBTQ plus friends and family so that they can finally work and live where they want to, free from discrimination. I promise to support legislation that would stop other nations from meddling in our elections. I promise to fight for the average working Hoosier because my parents were average working Hoosiers. And they weren't supported by big companies and big employers more than they were supported and protected by unions. Give me an opportunity to help our struggling farmers. You know, Indiana's home to nearly 100,000 of them, and more than 60,000 farms covering 19 million acres. If the incumbents truly wanted to help farmers, they would do everything in their power to ensure they had basic things like health care. They would introduce legislation that ensured fair competition against unequal distribution of market power. They would finally hold the Federal Trade Commission and the Antitrust Division of the DOJ responsible for the enforcement of antitrust statutes. They would work hard to give them access to greater technologies so they could exceed in their production goals. And finally, they would take their voice back with them to Washington and guarantee them a seat at the table. Listen, Hoosiers, I have an agenda for education. I have an agenda for student loan debt. Have you looked it up? Haneefah.Khaaliq.org. I have an agenda for civil rights and an agenda for millions of Americans forced into poverty due to COVID. And you have a responsibility to replace those who are not actively representing your interests when the time comes with people who can at least be in alignment with your needs. People who don't rely on friends in high places to cut corners, and people who are not hard to get in touch with. For those of you tuning in, I'm Haneefah Khaaliq, running for United States Senate. This is my first online fundraising event in virtual town hall. I'm asking each person watching to donate $100 to give. Please visit my ActBlue or Haneefah.Khaaliq.org. Now I will make an appeal to the conservatives because they may be watching too. You know, I was once told a story by a very wise man who now sits as a private advisor to my campaign. I don't call on him much, but when I do, he always has something for me to reflect on. I'm going to share this story with you. He told me this story, and it goes like this. On one cold and wintry afternoon, he found himself walking down a busy New York City street, minding his own business. Now, if you've been to New York City, you know that unfortunately in one of the richest nations, we find the homeless lining the streets. He goes on to tell me that for some unknown reason, a homeless man suddenly caught on fire right in front of him. Perhaps just trying to light a fire to keep himself warm. He says the man stood up and began dancing frantically around before he and one other person managed to put out the flames. Now, eventually, first responders arrived at the scene, and the homeless gentleman escaped with just a few injuries. But can you imagine how scary that must have been for everyone? When the homeless gentleman was asked, here's the key part, when the homeless gentleman was asked to describe the individuals who helped him, he could not recall. And this brings me to the point of my story. When you find yourself confronted in an emergency situation like that, it doesn't matter a hill of beans who the person was who came along to save you. The important thing is that you were saved. I'm sharing that story with you because all too often we allow ourselves to become distracted by things about people that should not matter. And these things often prevent us from making the best decisions for ourselves and for our families. I know I'm different. I have the pleasure of waking up each morning and seeing that difference in the mirror. But Hoosiers, I believe my difference is my power. Now here's my question to you. When have you ever, in your entire life, had to completely agree with all of something or all of someone in order to accept them? I'd be willing to bet never. So now I implore you to focus on what we do agree on, and the rest we can iron out together later. I am humbly asking you tonight to see the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is that we're all in a state of emergency. In closing, I know I've said a lot, I hope you'll like and share this video with at least 9 people in your network. Why 9? I've been saying this since last year. 9 represents the 9 congressional districts here in Indiana, and I intend to represent Hoosiers from each one of them. In 2022, I'm giving you the opportunity to select someone who promises to provide you with a level of engagement, interaction, and accountability you've never seen. We are at a pivotal moment and at a pivotal point in this campaign. I know 22 may seem like it's a ways away, but now is the time to show our strength. This is why I'm asking if you can give $500, $250, or even $100 right now. If you can't do that, become a monthly donor at just $20 a month, $15, or even $10 to help sustain this campaign. All the info is in the chat. And of course, you can visit HaneefahKhaaliq.org. Now, before entirely ending, just a few things. The campaign is still looking for volunteers in Lafayette and Bloomington. You can contact the campaign line if you're interested this summer. This summer, the petitions will be released from the Indiana Election Commission, and I'm going to need your signature to enter the primary. You can't wait until the general election comes to support me. You've got to show your support now. I will need 500 valid signatures of registered voters from each of the 9 congressional districts in Indiana to be a real contender. I'm asking you to visit my website, HaneefahKhaaliq.org, click on voter information, and get your registration done today. I can't tell you how many people in this last election who waited until the day of to check out their registration. You can't do that. You've got to do it right now. So once again, thank you for tuning into this live broadcast. I'm Haneefah Khaaliq, running for United States Senate right here in Indiana, and this was my first online fundraising event. What happened in Georgia can happen in Indiana, and with your help, Indiana is next. I'm going up against a multi-millionaire who cares more about his corporate donors than people who live in his own state. How disgraceful. Now, you may be tired of politics and tired of giving, but this is why we need more people like me in Washington you can count on to make a difference. To give, visit MyActBlue or visit HaneefahKhaaliq.org. In 22, there will be 34 United States Senate seats up for election in this country. I hope you'll support me in acquiring one of them. If you are Spanish speaking or would like to stay tuned here, please stay tuned for the second part of this stream, which will now be translated into Spanish. Remember, I am Indiana. You are Indiana. Together, we are Indiana. Thank you.
Muy buenas tardes a todos y muchas gracias por sintonizarnos. Soy Eve Gómez de EG Spanish Interpreting, propietaria de su propio negocio. Les estoy dando esta versión en español de lo que acaban de escuchar de Haneefah Khaaliq, candidata al Senado de los Estados Unidos. Estamos transmitiendo en vivo desde uno de los salones de banquete de aquí de Blue Chip Casino, ubicado en Michigan City. Y transmitiendo en vivo en Facebook, en Periscope y YouTube. Este fue el 10º ayuntamiento de Haneefah Khaaliq este año. Todos los asistentes llevan una máscara y practican el distanciamiento social. Ahora comenzaré la traducción. Ayer fue el día de Martin Luther King Jr. La mayoría de nosotros estamos familiarizados con el Dr. King. Es más conocido por sus campañas y manifestaciones pacíficas para poner al fin a la segregación racial y promover la igualdad en toda esta nación. Un breve dato sobre el Dr. King que quizá no conocía. Durante el tiempo de su activismo fue a la cárcel casi 30 veces por desobediencia civil y otros cargos falsos. La señorita Khaaliq dijo que puede entender usar todas las manos y los dedos de los pies para contar ese número y teme que aún se quedó corto. Ella no conoce a muchos dispuestos a sacrificarse por el bien de la humanidad de esa manera. La señorita Khaaliq cree que el Dr. King era alguien especial y está feliz de honrarlo 53 años después de su desafortunada muerte. Para aquellos que están sintonizando, los de ustedes que están aquí con nosotros, les proporciono la traducción en español de lo que acaban de escuchar de Haneefah Khaaliq, quien se postula para el Senado de los Estados Unidos en Indiana en 2022. Para donar, visite a su cuenta de ActBlue. Ella es la única candidata en la nación que promete luchar por salarios dignos, una expansión de la ley de derechos civiles y una educación de calidad para todos. Haneefah Khaaliq nació y se crió en Chicago, Illinois, en el área de Hyde Park. Después de que su madre se divorció, su familia pasó un tiempo en el lado sur de Chicago antes de que su madre se volviera a casa con su padrastro, cuya familia era polaco-estadounidense. Desde los 3 años de edad, creció en un hogar interracial y en un hogar que le enseñó a su gente de diferentes razas que no solo pueden llevarse bien, sino que pueden amarse por completo. Cuando la acería cerró en Illinois, su familia hizo las maletas y finalmente se mudó al noroeste de Indiana. Ella ha sido un orgullo Hoosier desde el 2000. Se graduó de la Lake Central High School en St. John, Indiana, y luego se graduó de IUPUI en Indianápolis y de la Facultad de Derecho de la Universidad de Valparaíso. Mientras estaba en IUPUI, se convirtió en presidenta de una organización estudiantil cristiana del campus y en ministra de jóvenes de su iglesia. Entonces, si bien ha mantenido profundamente los valores cristianos, respeta todas las religiones e incluso aquellas que pueden optar por no tener ninguno. Después de graduarse de la IUPUI, se convirtió en una maestra de escuela pública galardonada para las escuelas públicas de Indianápolis. Ahora es profesora de educación, abogada propietaria de un negocio, directora de una agencia de derechos civiles y, por supuesto, se postula para ser su próxima senadora estadounidense. Entonces, ¿por qué se postula para ser su próxima senadora de Estados Unidos? Es una respuesta muy sencilla. Ella se postula para ser su próxima senadora porque cree que puede hacer el trabajo mejor y que los dos que ocupan el puesto en este momento, ella cree que puede escuchar mejor, representar mejor y ayudarlos más. Ella va a hacer todo eso prometiendo primero celebrar ayuntamientos públicos regulares, ya sea en persona o virtualmente con traductores de español, aquí como su servidora, para que todos puedan entender lo que está sucediendo. Ella cree que este es un derecho elector básico y que los otros 2 senadores han evitado tener reuniones públicas. La señorita Khaaliq cree que la única forma de lograr un cambio es participar en el discurso público. El año pasado hubo un periódico que publicó un artículo de opinión alabando a uno de nuestros senadores estadounidenses. La señorita Khaaliq pregunta, ¿alabanza por qué? ¿Por qué quedarse de brazos cruzados mientras ni un solo Hoosier trae a casa más dinero? Por no garantizar que todos los miembros de la sociedad, sin importar cuál sea su estilo de vida, pueden, cuando la acería, vivir a trabajar donde quieran. por no defender a los padres que todavía luchan en una pandemia para brindarles a sus hijos la mejor educación. Afirma que también el año pasado tuvimos un senador de Estados Unidos que se atrevió a quitarle dinero a las escuelas simplemente si optaban por el aprendizaje de distancia en una pandemia porque estaban tratando de tener cuidado. Este anuncio, para los que aquellos están ahora sintonizando con nosotros, les proporciono la traducción en español de lo que acaban de escuchar de Haneefah Khaaliq, quien se postula para Senado de los Estados Unidos en Indiana en 2020. Para donar, visite su cuenta de ActBlue. Ella es la única candidata en la nación que promete luchar por salarios dignos, una expansión de la ley de derechos civiles y una educación de calidad para todos. La señorita Khaaliq nos pide a todos los Hoosiers que nos despertemos y que no está aquí para juzgar a nadie. Ella pide que los Hoosiers dejen de elegir el liderazgo pasivo sobre aquellos que se arremangaran y realmente se pondrán a trabajar. Luego recordó a los oyentes que el senador Todd Young no tuvo problemas el año pasado para tomar receso durante una pandemia. Mientras ustedes luchan por pagar sus facturas, él y sus colegas se fueron a casa. No tuvo objeciones, no protestó, ni el más mínimo desacuerdo mostró. Ella pregunta por qué. También afirmó que su oponente, el senador Todd Young, ha sido un político de carrera por más de 20 años y en ese tiempo no ha hecho nada por el medio ambiente, no ha hecho nada por la salud, nada por el mismo pago, por el mismo trabajo, nada por inmigración, y está en contra de aumentar el salario mínimo federal que todos han estado pidiendo. Como senadora de Estados Unidos, la señorita Khaaliq prometió esta noche abordar las cosas que se han ignorando, como la violencia con armas de fuego, miles de tiroteos masivos después y 3,000 niños perdidos. Ella cree que Estados Unidos tiene un día de retraso y un dólar corto para resolver esta crisis. Cuando se trata de nuestro sistema de inmigración, la señorita Khaaliq promete hacer todo lo posible para evitar que se convierta en un basado completamente en el mérito y promete mantener la inscripción escrita en nuestra Estatua de la Libertad. Tráeme tu cansado, tu roto y los que han anhelado los libres. ¿Por qué cree que ningún antepasado llegarán aquí por méritos? Ella prometió esta noche luchar duro por nuestros amigos y familiares de LGBTQ para que finalmente puedan trabajar y vivir donde quieran, libres de discriminación. Prometió apoyar la legislación que evitará que otras naciones se inmiscuyan en nuestras elecciones. Para luchar por el Hoosier trabajador promedio, porque sus padres de ella eran Hoosiers trabajadores promedio y no eran apoyados por las grandes empresas o las grandes empleadoras, tanto como estaban protegidos por los sindicatos. Promete una agenda para la educación, una agenda para la deuda de préstamos estudiantiles, una agenda para hacer que la universidad sea más asequible, una agenda para los derechos civiles y una agenda para millones de estadounidenses forzados a la pobreza debido al COVID-19. Afirmo que los habitantes Hoosiers tienen una responsabilidad de reemplazar a los populares con personas que al menos pueden estar alineados con sus necesidades, incluso aunque no sea ella. Para aquellos de ustedes que sintonizan, les proporciono la traducción en español de lo que acaban de escuchar de Haneefah Khaaliq, quien se postula para el Senado de Estados Unidos en Indiana el 2022. Para donar, visite su cuenta de ActBlue. Ella es la única candidata en la nación que promete luchar por salarios dignos, una expansión de la ley de derechos civiles y una educación de calidad para todos. La señorita Khaaliq luego hizo un llamamiento al conservador. Comenzó con una historia corta que dice así: una tarde fría e invernal, un hombre se encontró caminando por una calle concurrida de la ciudad de Nueva York, ocupándose de sus propios asuntos. Por alguna razón desconocida, un vagabundo de repente se encendió justo enfrente de él, tal vez solo tratando de encender un fuego para mantenerse caliente. Dice que el hombre se puso de pie y comenzó a bailar frenéticamente antes de que él, otra persona, lograran apagar las llamas del tipo. Ahora, eventualmente, los primeros en responder llegaron al lugar y el caballero sin hogar escapó con solo algunas heridas. Cuando se le pidió al caballero sin hogar que describiera a las personas que lo ayudaron, no podía recordarlo, lo que llevó a la señorita Khaaliq al grano de su historia. Cuando te encuentras en una situación de emergencia, no importa quién era la persona, quién se ofrece a ayudar. La cosa importante es que te fuiste ayudado. La señorita Khaaliq dijo que compartió esta historia porque cree que con demasiada frecuencia nos dejamos distraer por cosas de las personas que no deberían importar, como el color de la piel y el estado familiar. Y estas cosas a menudo nos impiden tomar las mejores decisiones para nosotros y nuestras familias. La señorita Khaaliq dijo que sabe que es diferente, pero cree que su diferencia es su poder. Ella pregunta: ¿alguna vez en toda tu vida tuvo que estar completamente de acuerdo con todo de algo o con todo de alguien para aceptarlos? Luego humildemente le pidió a esta noche que viera el panorama completo. Y el panorama general es que ella cree que estamos en un estado de emergencia y nadie se ofrece a ayudar a apagar el fuego. Ella promete ser el tipo de líder que mantiene una alma que arroja luz en un lugar muy oscuro, también conocido como Capitol Hill. Para aquellos de ustedes que sintonizan, les proporciono la traducción en español de lo que acaban de escuchar de Haneefah, quien se postula para el Senado de los Estados Unidos en Indiana en 2022. Para donar, visite su cuenta de ActBlue. Ella es la única candidata en la nación que promete luchar por los salarios dignos, una expansión de la ley de derechos civiles y una educación de calidad para todos. Para terminar, la señorita Khaaliq dijo que este verano las peticiones serán publicadas por la Comisión Electoral de Indiana. Necesitará su firma en las peticiones para ingresar a las primarias. Necesitará 500 firmas de votantes registrados de cada uno de los 9 distritos del Congreso en Indiana para ser un verdadero contendiente en esta carrera. Ella les pide que se registren para votar ahora, solo para que puedan estar listos para firmar su petición. Visite haneefahkhaaliq.org ahora mismo y haga clic en la pestaña de información de votante para registrarse. Luego espere a que ella venga a su área para obtener su firma. Esto ahora concluye la traducción. Para aquellos de ustedes que se sintonizan, una última vez, soy Eve Gómez de EG Spanish Interpreting y acabo de proporcionar la breve traducción al español de lo que acaban de escuchar de Haneefah Khaaliq, quien se postula para el Senado de los Estados Unidos en Indiana en 2022. Para dar, por favor, visítela cuanto antes en la cuenta de ActBlue. Ella promete luchar por los salarios dignos, una expansión de la ley de derechos civiles y una educación de calidad para todos. Muchas gracias a todos ustedes por escucharnos y por sintonizar aquí con nosotros. Voten por Haneefah Khaaliq. Buenas noches.